I'm back. It's another episode of One by One. I am not feeling too good right now, but I had an awesome fucking conversation with a legend last night, and I felt like I needed to get up and do this little intro and put this podcast out because I'm fucking super proud of it. I've been listening to his stylings since the 80s. Before I was really even into that type of music. Because growing up, I don't know. I didn't really have good musical influences in my life. Except for my mom, she had Donny Osmond all the time. That was great. Cher. But my aunt, she got me into like metal in the early 90s. Metallica. Soundgarden. And that's how I kind of branched out and found out about this fellow. He's an incredible human being. He's a sweet man. I don't think that I ever talked to anybody on here that's quite as nice and just so fucking cool. He's just so fucking cool. And I really can't thank him enough for giving me his time. Like, you guys have no idea. I am a no one. No one that got lucky. And it's not to say I'm not proud of that, but I'm never gonna fucking forget that. It's not like I came from some like rock star or comedy family. But you kind of have to make one for yourself, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what I'm saying. It's fucking 7:15 in the morning, and I had a migraine going through this fucking podcast last night, and it's still here, but we're doing this. So thank you for checking it out, and happy motherfucking Thursday. Yeah, I'm flipping the papers. What do I gotta talk about here? Hike Moab. You know, that's what I'm gonna fucking talk about right now. Hike Moab, moabhiking.com. If you are in Utah and you want to go on a motherfucking hike of your life, why not take it with the hiker taker wither of all hiker taker withers, Micah Hatcher. I hope you're doing good, dude. We still gotta talk soon about that gash in your head. He's trying to ride a bike on the trail to Baphomet, and just the devil just fucking got him. But anyway, code word 1 by 1, and you'll get a discount on that hike of your life at moabhiking.com. Alright, without further whatever that fucking word is. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, men and women of all ages, I present to you my new friend. We've been online friends for a little while now, going back and forth. But now I actually spoke to him, and it kind of made things a little more solid. So it feels very cool. But ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for the legend himself, Rudy Sarzo.
Hello, Michael.
Hey, Rudy.
Good. Yeah, I'm just putting on my headphones here.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I was getting closer to the mic. Hey,
Okay.
man. Cool, dude. I think we automatically have pretty good levels here, so
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
great. We're good to
How's
go,
the how's the baby?
dude. It's amazing, dude. He's 1.5 now,
Oh
and
wow.
you know it's crazy because I started doing this stuff just like you. I was listening a little bit to your podcast that you just did with Uncle Joey, and
Uh-huh.
you mentioned how you started your podcast from because of him, and I kind of did the same thing like a couple years ago, and since then
Wow.
it's been like it's gotten crazy, like busy and exciting, and it's been incredible, and we had the baby on top of that, so it's just like it's incredible, man.
Fantastic.
He's coming along great, man. How are you? How are you doing?
Busy, busy. It's all good. Just getting ready to hit the road again tomorrow, and we usually do weekends, so it will be like a couple of shows, and then we come home and then go back out again, and
Yeah,
the next week, which is great because I did the whole tour bus thing for many years, and I'm at the point in my life that I really don't want to do it. I really do not need to do it.
yeah. I
So
imagine,
yeah,
dude.
yeah, yeah.
I've been playing music too, like a long time, but I never got to the point where I was in like a serious enough band where we toured or anything like that. But I always wanted to try, just to see how it was. But I
Yeah,
could always imagine it was just not that great.
yeah. I mean, it was a pretty. What can I say? It was a pretty ugly pattern. As a matter of fact, we can save stuff like this for the podcast.
Yeah, it's it's not like it is today, I guess, too. Back like when you guys first started and shit, like you, what kind of like a tour bus was it? Like, did you have like anything like special about it? Or, like, I'm sure you
Yeah,
started in vans and shit too before that.
yeah. No, no, we started in bands. But by the time my first tour bus was with Ozzy Osbourne in '81. And I mean, it was a nice tour bus, but then again, compared to today's technology, it had nothing.
Yeah.
We had I think the second tour bus we had a microwave in it
Oh, sweet.
because drivers kept quitting because Ozzy was too crazy for them.
I can imagine, dude. Were you on tour like when he like bit the head off the bat and all that shit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Actually, that was on the following tour, the Diary of a Madman.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that crazy
Yeah,
stuff.
man.
Yeah,
He's a nutball. I've been following you guys for a long time.
yeah.
It's amazing, dude. So,
Awesome.
dude, how's the podcast like coming along? I've been listening to it like as sporadically throughout all the other podcasts that I have to kind of listen to in
Yeah,
order
of
to make
course.
the
Yeah,
work the artwork
yeah.
that I do. But
Yeah, it's going great. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned it in the podcast that I did with Joey, but I've mentioned it before. The reason why I started doing the podcast, of course, I was inspired by all of the I don't know, just I all of the stuff that comes out when you do a podcast is almost like therapy.
yeah,
you know,
I
Stuff
totally get
comes out
that,
that,
man.
yeah, especially if you're having a conversation with somebody, there's certain points of reference that you have with the individuals that you do the podcast with. They'll say something and you say, "Oh yeah, that happened to me," and it might have been something that's been dormant
Yeah, you
for
forgot about
decades.
it.
You forgot about it, and it's like, "Oh yeah," Then all of a sudden you're like reliving this in real time
Yeah.
during the podcast.
Yeah, and it's
And
fun too because you can get to talk to people that you want to talk to, and that could
yeah.
possibly have those things happen to you.
Yeah, yeah, and most of all is the reason why I started doing really is because lately we are at a certain age that we've lost a few of our comrades
Yeah.
in the music industry, and I've been to a few services, like let's say the one for Lemmy
Yeah.
uh,
Hmm.
about a couple of years ago, and of course before that Ronnie James Dios and a few others, and it just gets to a point that people get up there and say all these nice things about the individuals, and I'm sitting there listening and I'm going, wow, wouldn't it be nice if they would be here so they can actually hear it.
Yeah.
Say it to their face, or or also or keep that as a record, an audio record of a documentation of how we are as individuals,
Yeah.
how we talk, how we express ourselves, how we feel about certain things and each other. Something that did not exist. Let's say it would have been nice to hear Chopin, how he felt about,
Yeah.
or listen to Beethoven, or or whatever, any of these classical composers that we listen to their music, but we know very little about them, and all
Exactly.
we know about them is through their music. How we feel emotionally when we listen to it.
Yeah. Is that's such a weird thing, man. Like nowadays, like we have you guys. Like I don't care. I'm just gonna tell you, you're a fucking legend. Just like everybody else you've been playing with all these years. But to have that and to spread it in real time, so the
Yeah,
whole entire world
yeah,
can
yeah,
feel it.
yeah,
It's an
yeah.
incredible thing, man.
Yeah, well, actually, I consider myself an accidental legend. I just happen to, I just happen to
Well,
be there
consider
when,
whatever you want, dude.
yeah, I just happen to be there when all these really cool people get together and make all this great music, and I just happen to be there. So
Nah, don't get you're playing that out a little bit.
yeah, no, really, I mean, that's the way I look at it. It's like,
That's how I look at it for my situation. Like I was in the right time at the right place doing what I do. Like
mm,
with Joey even noticing what I did for him for the Savage Dad album that he came out with.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like that was incredible. And that was because of social media, you know?
oh
That wouldn't
yeah,
have happened 20 years ago. You
exactly.
you couldn't even get in contact with your favorite like comedian or band member or something back then. It's weird, and it's
Yeah,
still like that. Some and with like some like super like movie stars and stuff like that. But
yeah, yeah, but you know what? And this is something that I struggle with because I've been a fan longer than I've been a professional musician. Once you get to a certain
yeah,
level of success or whatever, then you're kind of like in the same playing field as everybody else,
hmm
you know. But I there's certain people that I really want to keep as me being the fanboy. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like I let's say I grew up listening to the Beatles, and I really don't want to. I would be nice, but it's not something that I really would want to be texting or tweeting with Paul McCartney.
yeah.
It's like no, he's Paul McCartney. That's it's like no,
No, I'm sure
that's
Dave
a
Grohl does, but he's also up there.
yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But it's like there's something about that. There was a certain magical, mystical thing about the
Yeah,
Beatles. Let's say, when I first started playing, I started playing, a little bit of guitar, and I, would go out and buy these Beatle books that I still have actually,
yeah,
with music, and every time there was a chord, let's say a C chord, it would be a little diagram on top of the C chord that show you how to finger it on the fretboard.
yeah,
And I'm going like, nah, that's impossible. This is the Beatles. They must have like magical chords that
yeah,
they play that nobody else plays because it's the Beatles,
yeah,
So I could never really wrap my head around that. It's the same notes
yeah.
that everybody can play.
It's just how you
But
play them and how you put it together.
yeah, exactly. But to me, that was something that was completely. They were so be above me as they weren't even human.
Yeah, exactly, dude. I mean, that's when I first started playing guitar. It was like the early '90s when I
uh,
first got a guitar, and my first book, it wasn't Beatles, it was Nirvana Unplugged in New York.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
that's the same thing, power chords, and you're just like, what?
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's something else, man. Like music, I actually just saw a commercial, and it kind of like made me think really hard. Like it was a commercial about I forget what the product was, but it was about karaoke and how like somebody from a different country would do karaoke with someone and they didn't even know the same language, but they sang the same song, you know,
You know,
and felt that on stage. I mean, you had to have
I,
experienced that, like playing all over the
I,
world, you know.
yes, I started touring in Japan in 1982, and I got to tell you, karaoke bars were so popular there,
Yeah.
and just to go, and of course, back in 1982, I wasn't even married yet, so I was always like hanging out and going to the bars and just socializing.
Yeah.
Completely different than my lifestyle is today, but back in the day, that's what I did.
Mhm.
And in Japan, we always went to karaoke bars, uh, and it was really entertaining to watch businessmen because it was a businessman thing. They were wearing their suit and really, very very conservative look to them, and they would just get up there and sing karaoke pop songs. And it was wonderful, and it was like, man, I would look at them and go, my God, I could never be that drunk to get out there
Yeah.
and do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a weird thing how somebody could get like you might not even know what the words are to the song, but you have that feeling and that emotional connection. Like the song in the commercial was like a duet, so it was like a man and a woman from two different
Yeah,
countries, you know. So
yeah.
it's really interesting shit, you know.
Yeah, yeah, music. It's God's language. It's what connects all of us. I mean, do you know a whole lot of music theory and harmony and
Uh,
all of that? And
not technically, no. I mean, I've learned throughout my years, but I never went to school. I never like taken actual lessons. I really should
yeah,
have, but
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of information available online, but if you're going to look into the mysticism of music, it's all the way that our music is divided to, and this goes back to the times of the Greeks or even before that, it was all divided in subdivisions of frequencies.
Mhm.
And it's divided into 12 notes,
Yeah,
12 notes that just keep repeating. And if you look at the circle of fifth or circle of fourth, whichever way you want to look at it, it's just this never ending cycle. And we are so used to looking at a sheet music like a staff.
yeah,
And basically, what you read on the staff are notes that basically covered the range of a piano, 88 keys, 88 notes.
yeah,
And that's what basically the human ear can capture.
yeah. Can register.
But
Yeah,
yeah, but theoretically, there's an infinite amount of notes below and above the staff.
yeah. That we
You
just
know,
can't
it,
hear with our ears, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And, I mean, 12 is a very magical number, too. It's like you have 12 hours in the day, daytime, 12 hours nighttime, and then you have 12 hours on the clock, 12 months in the year, things like that.
The
So
12 apostles, if you believe in that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And, it's music, historically, even before it became pop music, it was mostly spiritual, you know,
Yeah,
and like religious music and China has one of the oldest history with music as a the Chinese Empire as a governing tool. There used to be this emperor that would travel across China with a bell, this little bell, and make sure that all the all these cities, were actually in tune to this particular bell.
what?
Yeah,
How the fuck
yeah,
would he do that?
uh,
Like,
to
what would he do? Go hit
bring
it on buildings? Like, think.
no harmony. It was to have the country in harmony.
Oh wow.
And tuning today, we have what we call the A440.
Yeah,
It used to be 432,
yeah, yeah.
and yeah, and that was the traditional A. The cycles. It was supposed to be what the Earth is tuned to, the frequency of the Earth, musical
432.
frequency, 432,
Well, so what made
and
them raise it?
Oh, there's a lot of conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theories about that?
Yeah, but it is a fact that it was 432. As a matter of fact, Giuseppe Verdi was one of the composers who uh, who asked the committee, because the committee decided it was going to be 440, A440, asked them to please do not do that because it was going to mess everything for, as far as playing the music that preceded the 430, the A440. Like
Yeah.
when today, traditionally, if we listen to a symphonic orchestra that's tuned to 440, and that's what they call it now, concert pitch. So concert pitch now is 440. We're not listening to it the way that I was tuned to like Bach, Beethoven, and all the other composers.
Yeah, back when they actually played it and wrote it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's and it sounds different.
Yeah, I've noticed that with a lot of any time that, because usually I tune a half a step down. Is that 432?
Yes. No, it's actually in between.
Okay. Because
Yeah, it's in yes.
if you lower, if you go a half step or a whole step in
Hmm.
any
Oh yes.
direction,
Yeah.
or use a capo, it's like it almost makes the song happy or sad depending on where you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. Case in point, Black Sabbath. When we tour, Quiet Riot tour with Black Sabbath 35 years ago.
Hmm.
So as a matter of fact, 35 years ago, like I was tour. Quiet Riot was on tour with Black Sabbath,
Wow.
and I got to tell you, they tuned down to D,
Damn.
which which was very rare for any band back in the day. Of course, it became the norm with grunge and death metal
Yeah.
to go actually go down to C tuning, and all of that.
Yeah. C is where
So
it's at
and
now. I
yeah,
think a lot of people.
yeah, and I gotta tell you, listening to Black Sabbath live, tuned down to D, Tony Iommi's guitar was unbelievable.
Wow.
It was like this huge, massive tone,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy how little things like that can change it. But that's I'm totally gonna look into that whole uh Chinese guy doing
Oh
that,
yeah.
tuning the country. That's great.
Oh yeah. Yes. That's how he kept harmony. Yeah. I mean, there's just a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, that we consider crazy, but it's really not. Like having monks. What is it? Glastonbury. Glastonbury. That now they have festivals in England
Yeah,
at
yeah.
Glastonbury.
Hmm.
Okay, they used to have a and I guess it would call it infinite choir that there will be round the clock. There will be monks singing, chanting, nonstop.
What?
Yeah, like there will be, like, let's say for 8 hours, they will be singing, and then a new batch will come in and pick up what they were singing, and so the other ones could rest, and then
Wow.
so like every like 3 times a day they would change, the monks
That's
singing. So
incredible.
yeah, so I mean, music, it's it has such a spiritual, traditionally such a huge spiritual history.
Yeah. And with that, like, because I've also heard other weird shit with sound and like notes, like I don't know if it was when who was the guy? I forget. He was a guest on Joe Rogan, and they were talking about the Gobekli Tepe uh, site and how they used to like possibly move these large stones with sound somehow.
Interesting.
You ever hear of that?
No, but it's very possible. It's all vibration.
Yeah, that's what I
That's
mean.
what
It's
it is.
they got to just
Yeah,
you just got to figure it out, like how exactly to work it. But you'd think we would have
yeah,
figured it out by now if they
yeah,
supposedly did it back then.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
craziness, man. It's it's really incredible what the world has come into. Like the fact that I'm sitting here talking to you right now is blowing my fucking mind. But the way that it's really music that's for me in my life that's brought all of this together because you know growing up, I don't know about you, but my influence for music first was my grandmother before she passed away, she was teaching me how to play piano. And
Interesting. Yeah.
it didn't, we didn't get too far. We got to like Mary Had a Little Lamb and like
Hmm.
little songs like that, but from there it just went on, and I didn't really continue with piano. I picked up guitar and it took off. But what what inspired you to pick up a bass guitar or any instrument? You said you played guitar first, didn't
Yeah, yeah. I mean, playing a bass was not in my equation when I
you?
started playing. It
I
was
I
like,
played
what
in
the?
bass in like actually two bands.
Uh, yeah, it was not an instrument of choice. I started playing music, let's say in high school, elementary, yeah, junior high school. I I picked up the trumpet, and I was living in New Jersey at the time. And I
Yeah.
picked up the trumpet, but I just practicing the trumpet in an apartment. It's not very my mom used to shove me in the closet. She would shove me in there, and I would be like blowing on this thing in the dark in the closet. It was pathetic. Uh, let's see. After that, we moved to Miami, and by the time that I went to like a school band, and I went to pick up an instrument, all they had left were trombones,
Ooh.
which is not a really rocking instrument,
No.
unless you're playing it in the band Chicago.
Well,
That's about it, and there's only one guy who plays trombone in the band. So
yeah.
so
Your beat.
yeah, yeah. And let's see. So I really wanted to be in a band, or play music, but it wasn't until like when the Beatles happened, when they played on Ed Sullivan. That's when, and it was mostly because the girls were going crazy.
Yeah,
It
you
was
were like,
like,
I want that.
yeah, I was some fat little kid that was trying to like discover the code
Yeah.
of women.
Yeah. How do we get in?
That's right. What's the code? Oh, you play an instrument. Oh yeah, that's it. That's my ticket. Yeah, that's it. That's my ticket to it. And yeah, so initially it's that, but boy, there's so much time and dedication that you have to put into the instrument. And it's a lifelong journey to really take advantage of what any instrument can offer a musician.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong journey because it's not just learning how to play the instrument. See, that's where the mistake is. It's actually learning music, and you apply the knowledge of what music is to actually learning the technique of playing the instrument.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. You might have the greatest technique on the instrument, but if you don't have musical knowledge to apply the technique to, you're basically not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You're going to be staying in the same musical level.
Hmm.
It's like if you let's say James Earl Jones, that magnificent voice with the knowledge of the English language of a 5-year-old. It's basically the same thing. He's got a great sounding voice, but he's not saying anything. You know what I
That's
mean?
hilarious. Yeah.
So basically it's that. So let's say you have a great rig, great amplifier, great guitar, great equipment, but you don't have a whole lot of knowledge about what music is. You're going to be very limited.
Yeah. I get that. And
Yeah.
sometimes I see it with people, like, I compare some people that I see, like, when, they try to shred too much on guitar, but really they need to just be chilling, like, and give it a little soul, like some David Gilmour, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I mean, and then again,
that's
there's
part of
certain
it.
guy. I mean, I play with some shredders that can actually do that, put the soul into it. Uh, Actually, I did a tour with Yngwie Malmsteen, and boy, can he shred! But then he loves to play blues.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We used to do Red House by Hendrix, and a bunch of more blues oriented songs.
Yeah.
So when you're in that level of musicianship, it's just a matter of choice. It's because you're not really limited, so you got so many choices to make musically. And to be honest with you, especially back in the 80s, because shredding became such a popular thing,
Yeah.
that's what was going to get you noticed.
Yeah.
It's like, the fastest gun in the West. That's the one that people, that's the one who's going to outlive everybody.
Yeah.
You got the fastest draw. You're the fastest gun, you know.
Yeah.
And so it became something like that. It became kind of like survival. How fast can you get? You know, yeah, it was. It was a lot of competition.
Yeah.
And once you became that gun, the hot gun in town, you're always going to have challengers coming up, and so it's up to you to shoot him down, or you're gonna get shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of survival.
Yeah, man. I see it around in my local town. Like we me and my friend do a open mic every other week, and it's been getting pretty crazy with the amount of talent that's been coming in.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
all
Yeah.
over the place, age
Yeah.
wise. It's like we
Yeah.
have 13
Oh my
year olds
God.
that come in and they kill. It's crazy.
It is crazy, and I see it a lot online.
Yeah.
There's all these really young musicians that have taken advantage of all the incredible resources on YouTube for learning, which
Yeah.
I take advantage of it.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely, every single day. I'm out there on YouTube learning stuff.
Hell yeah, dude.
And
That's how I learned how
yeah,
to do the
mm,
podcast when I
yeah,
decided to start doing it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, music theory, harmony. I'm in there every single day, learning as much as I can. I'm practicing and applying it. It's stuff that I might never, in my current musical situation, I would never apply because it's not applicable.
Yeah, not
It's
called
not the
for.
same language. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not called for. But nevertheless, I know it and I really enjoy it, and I just enjoy. It comes down to this basically: the certain songs and sounds in my head that I grew up with that are not necessarily rock and roll. Because I'm old enough that I can say I was born before rock and roll was what existed.
Yeah.
I was born in 1950.
Mhm.
And also having grown in Cuba, we had more of the Afro-Cuban jazz influence.
Yeah.
So I arrived in the States when I was almost 11 years old.
Oh wow. So
So
you knew what was
yes,
going on down there,
well,
like with music wise. You
yeah,
were.
music wise, yeah, of course. So there's certain sounds and melodies that I hear, and they always fascinated me because But then those were way more intricate because there a lot of the Af- uh, Afro-Cuban music. It's a blend of African rhythms, but Western, European melodies.
Mhm.
It's harmonically, it's very rich, and so it's not just blues, even though blues based music can be very rich too, don't get me wrong, but harmonically it's more closer to what jazz is.
Yeah.
Classical music, jazz, there's a certain characteristic of all of the uh, you can do chord substitutions and superimposing certain chords on top of chords to bring out these extensions, and it's just so dense harmonically, and then you add to that the African rhythms, and it's just this incredible,
Yeah, powerhouse.
power. Yeah, yeah, very very complex music. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a that's what's a cool thing too about like what you were saying with the chords and extensions. What like playing with group of like say a couple acoustic guitar players or something like that. Like
Hmm.
it's really interesting what you can do like with the rhythms and all
Oh,
the
absolutely.
overlays
Yeah.
and stuff like that, man. You're
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
getting me really inspired to look
Yeah.
all into this stuff, man. I always
I
wanted to. It's just that I don't know. I just always just thought, oh, I know the chords. I know how to play them. I could just figure
Yeah.
out things on my own. But it's really that's kind of stupid. I need
Yeah.
to learn.
When you started playing, but in the 90s, by the 90s, the way music was written,
Simplified, right?
well, it wasn't just simplified. It was a lot of tension, especially if you listen to Nirvana,
Yeah.
if you listen to Soundgarden, there was a lot of tension chords, and which was really cool because it got away from the modal diatonic songwriting that we experienced in the 80s. It
Mm-hmm.
brought it back. It was an edgier version of the 70s,
Yeah.
the way that music was written, especially the metal. Let's say if you look at Soundgarden, that was very reminiscent of what Black Sabbath with Ozzy
Oh yeah.
was all about,
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
you know. So, but but if you're going to listen to classic rock, there is a system meaning uh, a way of doing things. It's called the caged system, which stands for these chords C, A, G, E, and D. And if you want to know more about it, it's all over the internet.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
cage system, which actually all that it means is that, let's say if you play a C chord, or let's say a D chord, just it will be easier. If you play a D chord, an open D chord,
Mm-hmm.
on the first high strings, and you move that D chord up 2 frets, you're gonna get an E chord with the same shape.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So then the A chord, you move it up, and it's like you bar it, and you go from A, you can go to B, you can go to C, and to D, and so on.
Yeah.
So the same movements that you have or let's say on your lower frets, like up to, let's say you play a D chord, which is part of it is on the second fret and third fret,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you play the A on the second fret, things like that. If you move it up, you start getting the sounds, and the way that a lot of the music, let's say the Rolling Stones, Doobie Brothers, all the classic rock came from playing music that way. And that's something that really got lost in the shuffle
Yeah.
by the 90s. By the 90s, it was a whole different chord system. The way that the shapes, there's a lot of tension chords,
Yeah. I
you
noticed
know.
that. Like, just going because I learned through that Nirvana Unplugged book, but it was all guitar tablature. I
Yeah.
still don't even know how to read music. That's what kind of upsets me is that I still don't know how to exactly.
Yeah,
I know like the basic notes, but I don't know. I can't just sit there and like
yeah.
play something looking
Yeah,
at it.
what's going to happen is the difference between reading music and tablature. Tablature, it gives you a specific place on the fretboard to play that note.
Yeah.
Well, on which is really doesn't work on the guitar, because if you look at the guitar, there is various places on the fretboard to play exactly the same note.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
But with the tablature, you're basically stuck with that note unless you want to, where the variation of that note is, and move it to the other spot.
Yeah.
you know
Mm-hmm.
so, but when you read sheet music, it just gives you the note, and it's up to you to make a decision
Where?
which string and what fret to play that note in.
Yeah. I guess it would be easier to learn music on piano then, right?
Well,
'Cause-
see, piano is a specific. I'm talking about a string instrument.
okay.
Since piano is linear, it repeats. It's not a grid
Yeah, yeah. I
like
got
a
you.
guitar is. It's linear. So the middle C on the sheet music is exactly the middle C on the piano.
Okay, got you. Yeah. It's crazy, man. I really need to get learned. Maybe that's
Well,
why I haven't progressed forward with it. But I feel like you know, it's definitely time.
well, it's just like anything. You're gonna get out of it as much as you put into it.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's with with the baby now, it's kind of crazy.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
My
And
girlfriend
it's
actually,
about,
she got
yeah.
me a DVD, how to learn piano, like a year or 2 years ago, right before he came, and
Uh,
just got put off. You do you know how to play piano as well? I assume.
I know music. So basically I can, I mean there's certain instruments that are so complex for me to understand, which I do love the saxophone,
Yeah.
but it's the mechanics of it are so complex that I just rather apply that time to becoming a better bass player
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
than to actually learn how to play the saxophone. And but I yes I as far as my technique on the piano is very poor, but I do understand it.
Yeah. And it was funny that you mentioned that you started with trumpet too. The one of the guys that I started playing in a band with first, he was the bass player, and his first instrument was trumpet. And his like big influence on bass, besides you, actually, was Flea from the Chili
Oh,
Peppers,
Flea,
and
yeah, yeah,
his was trumpet too.
yeah, he is, yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's a
yeah.
weird
But
that's
he
a weird
actually,
coincidence.
yeah, he actually got to play it and become a really good trumpet player. Me, I gave up on it. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
dude, Rudy, thank you so much, man. I don't want to take
Hey,
up
my
any more of your
pleasure.
time. It has been an honor to even get to talk to you for 5 minutes, let alone I think we've been talking for half an hour. So, thank you
My
very
pleasure,
much, my
Michael.
friend.
And please let me know when it's up so I can share in social media.
Will do, my brother. Thank you so
Okay.
much,
God
and
bless you.
good luck on tour, and keep kicking ass, my friend.
Yeah, and happy holidays.
You too.
Okay. God
Thank you.
bless.
Bye.
Bye bye.